Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining this session. My name is Shimri Winters, and we will be talking today about INSEAD and London Business School. If you're on our live YouTube right now, on Facebook, you can write in the comments your name, if you have a preference for London Business School or INSEAD, if you have a GMAT score, I would love to hear that, and maybe where you're from. So I would love to know that. And we're going to leave time for lots of questions in the end. Don't worry, this is going to be quite a long session with a lot of information about London Business School and INSEAD. This is actually going to be session number 1. And it's going to be, let's call it an introduction to the schools. We're going to go over quite a lot of material and the similarities and the differentiators between these two schools, and maybe talk about some other schools as well. But it is important to mention we will have a part 2, so stay tuned. Which will go over the admissions process in a lot of detail to each of these schools. So I suggest we begin. A bit about myself. My name is Shimri Winters. I head the ARINGO MBA admissions strategy team. I'm an LBS alum. At the end of my MBA, I was asked to interview for the school, and I used to interview for the school for MBA applicants. I have a computer science degree, and I've been working at ARINGO for 10 years full-time. This is what we do. This is what I do. What does ARINGO do? This is my only marketing slide for today, which is very short. We're actually really good. We're a boutique admissions consulting firm. We help candidates from chances estimation, project planning, school selection, and till actually helping candidates work with on their applications for all top US and European schools in the entire admissions process, from strategy to scholarship, much more. Check us out on aringo.com. We're very good. You can see some of the statistics. You can see here on the right the European statistics and London Business School and INSEAD statistics as well. And of course, some of our US statistics. Okay, that was my marketing slide. So let's talk about our agenda. Again, thank you for joining, whoever's on the live chat. If you can write your name, if you have a GMAT score and where you're from, that would be super helpful. And of course, start preparing questions. My secret sauce for this presentation will be to talk very quickly and to leave time for questions at the end. Okay, so the agenda is quite simple. We're going to talk about London Business School. We're going to talk about INSEAD. I'm going to try and point out different attributes to each of the schools. I'm going to try and point out differentiators, attributes. Why should you consider one of these schools? Maybe I'll also talk about other schools while we talk about these schools. And of course, I'll try and compare between the two. So lots of topics. And hi, Stephen, and thanks. And whoever is on the YouTube and wants to say their name, great. And prepare lots of questions. Let's go. So my first slide is actually nothing to do with London Business School and INSEAD at all. I thought we would put here a general slide which discussed the differences between US MBAs and European MBAs. And when I look at the US schools, the good US MBAs, they're big universities and they're good at everything. I know nothing about journalism, but I'm sure Cornell have a very good master's in journalism. I know nothing about biology. I'm sure Columbia or Duke or Harvard are very good at biology. So these big universities in the US, they're good and big in lots of things. One of them is MBAs. So my mother would know all the big brands in the US schools because they're mentioned on Netflix on nearly every series when the son of the hero goes to college in somewhere, Columbia. There's a lot of Americans in these schools in the US, and probably 60 or 70% Americans in the big US schools. And most of the MBA programs are 2 years in the US. This is very different than the top European schools. First of all, most of the business schools are business schools. They're not part of a huge university, or like in London Business School case, it's part of University of London, but that's just a chain of universities. And they mainly teach business. That means in NYU, there's 20,000 students, and at London Business School, there might be 500 each year. Okay, so very big difference in terms of size. There's a lot of foreigners in the top European schools. There won't be a lot of British people at London Business School. There won't be a lot of French people at INSEAD, etc. And the MBAs are shorter. They're between 10 months. We'll discuss this a lot today, and 1.5 years, or 21 months in some cases. But you can definitely finish all the MBAs within a year to a year and a half. So definitely shorter. So if I'm an MBA candidate and I want to decide between the US and Europe, the key differentiator in my mind is location. Where do you want to live and work during the MBA and post MBA? This is critical. You might end up in the same job, working for Amazon or McKinsey, maybe even in a very similar salary. But do you want this job to be in Paris or in New York? Do you want to live throughout your MBA in Singapore or in Madrid or in New York? So, you need to think about the location for you, for your family, maybe the length of the degree, which we mentioned before, and maybe if you have personal reasons, happy wife, happy life, specific employer, if you really want to work for an employer that has Silicon Valley headquarters, and maybe you want to go and study in California. If you really want to live in the US, there's no reason to go and study in Europe. So think about the location when you choose the schools, not just the school rankings. Okay, that I think was one of my only generic slides, which has nothing to do with INSEAD and London Business School. So let's talk about London Business School. And I hope you like these British characters that I love. As a proud London Business School grad, I have to say a few bad things about INSEAD in every call. So I won't say that, but wait for the characters I've chosen for INSEAD. If we look at London Business School, it's one of the best schools in the world. It really doesn't matter in my eyes if it's ranked 6 or 7 or 8 or even 11 or 12 in a certain year on the Financial Times ranking. It's one of the best schools in the world. Ask anyone, ask any employer, ask any person who understands something about MBAs. Definitely one of the best schools in the world. Again, doesn't really matter the specific ranking for a specific year. Fantastic brand. Let's move on. So this is like the facts sheet, just so you know a bit more about London Business School. Studies only start in September, like most business schools, unlike INSEAD. Studies only start once a year in September. It's actually a very new thing, which I haven't seen in many other business schools, especially not in the US. There is a flexible length of the program. You can actually finish the program a bit earlier. For example, if you don't do a summer internship, you can study in the summer, and that saves you 1 semester. For example, if you put a lot of electives in 1 semester, that can save another semester. So you can actually study in 15, 18, or 21 months. That's very unique for London Business School. There's many electives. It can be finance, strategy, entrepreneurship, marketing, economics, whatever topic you want, they have an elective about it. Scholarships, lots of scholarships. I don't think I put here a statistic. I did here in a couple rows later, but we found a 2020 statistic of 20 million scholarships awarded. So there's a lot of money in scholarships at London Business School. And the tuition is very expensive. It costs £115,000. This is kind of the main statistics I wanted to discuss. There's lots of different statistics around the average salary. It's quite similar to other top business schools. Does it include bonuses or not? So that's why there's a big difference between the base and 3 years later. But good salaries at the end. I'm going to talk about employment a lot because I think that's something very important for a lot of MBA aspirants. Just wanted a word about the GMAT. There's no GMAT waivers at London Business School for the MBA. You need around, I think the average GMAT was 707 in the old GMAT, which is equivalent to around 655 in GMAT Focus Edition. That's the average GMAT score. If your profile is average or below average, for example, you have less years of experience or not very interesting years of experience, or you come from an overrepresented background, you might need to score a higher than average GMAT to be considered. Nice percent of women in class. I think that's quite a good thing. I just put this slide here from London Business School because I thought it was interesting to show. So the middle bar here shows the MBA. And a lot of times people call me and say, well, I have 20 years of experience. Can I make it to a full-time regular MBA program? And the answer is no. I understand that you might think that you have a lot of experience and this is an advantage, but schools have in mind a very specific profile of their applicants. Of course, there's many exceptions, and we'll talk about a few of these exceptions later. And INSEAD and London Business School know how to accept people with exceptions, but still they're looking for someone with 2 or 3 years minimum of professional full-time experience. This usually will be post-undergraduate experience, unless specific cases like you served in the army or something like that before your undergraduate degree. And again, if you have more than 12 years of experience, you probably want to be looking at some kind of other degree. Luckily, London Business School offers Executive MBA and Sloan program, which you can check out my other videos, MBA above 30. But for the full-time degree, you should probably have 3 to 10, 11 years of experience to be considered. So we said we would look a bit about the recruiters. I think you will enjoy this slide because it shows a snapshot of recruiters that came a couple of years ago to London Business School. And there's a lot of interesting companies here. And even the less interesting companies here offer some sort of management program, maybe a management rotation program. For example, I think Burger King, interesting name, and General Motors, again, another interesting and maybe less sexy name than Amazon or Microsoft or maybe McKinsey. I think these firms, I know these firms came to London Business School and recruited managers. And a rotation program means you do half a year strategy, half a year finance, half a year real estate, and then you can actually continue in the company in one of these sectors. By the way, I forgot to say something very important, that this is going to be an interactive session. So please, in about 3 slides, I'm going to ask you some questions. Stay tuned for that. Forgot to mention that. So if we look at employment reports, they're changing rapidly, but consulting is still kind of the biggest sector, and finance is still kind of the second biggest sector. Technology is growing more and more, and technology is going to be the second biggest sector very soon. And this is, again, historic information. So the more new tech companies come to London, which is a huge tech hub, tech is going to grow. Diversified just means, kind of all the rest. And where do people work post-MBA? Well, most people work in the UK. Okay, and again, I went to LinkedIn, and the first 2 bars on the left here show United Kingdom, but the second bar shows London. So on LinkedIn, although the school says they have around 50,000 alumni, on LinkedIn there's 85,000 people that reference to London Business School. A bit strange, but it can be explained with executive education and things like that. And out of those 40,000, so half, work in the UK. So that goes to show around half the people long-term stay in the UK. Again, LinkedIn just shows long-term information. What are the companies? Very similar to what we thought. So consulting was very big. BAM, McKinsey, and BCG are on this in the top 5. But there's also tech companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. And it's nice to see Nestle here. Was a bit of a surprise to me. But HSBC wasn't a surprise because we knew there would be finance, consulting, and tech. So just a nice snapshot, I think, of London Business School. Here, there's some top recruiters, A to Z. I mean, you can look at them, but again, there won't be big surprises here to see the big consulting firms, to see the big tech firms, and to see some finance firms, and to see some general industry firms like PepsiCo. Okay, not a huge surprise. I'm slowing down so you can see the screen a bit. Remember, my secret plan was to talk very fast and to leave some time for questions at the end. Okay, so we shall continue. I can see some people joining now if you're on the live stream. So if you can tell me your name and where you're from, that would be great. If you have a GMAT, even better, let me know your score. And we're continuing. There will be a session of Q&A at the end. We're nearly at the end of London Business School, just introduction. So let's talk a bit about key differentiators. So when we look at London Business School and try and compare it to another MBA program, in my mind, the first differentiator is location. I'll tell you a little secret. Most MBAs teach the same things: marketing, entrepreneurship, economics, micro, macro, statistics, analytics, maybe some soft skills, organization behavior, and various leadership skills. So what will be the big difference between London and another school? Well, it's the best school in the UK for sure, and in London for sure. London's a very nice place to live in. My wife loves it. I love it. If you're interested in art, if you're interested in football, if you're interested in career, you have career aspirations in services, finance, consulting, tech, entrepreneurship, London's a great place. So the location is a huge differentiator and a huge advantage of London Business School. There are some other advantages and differentiators. I think we touched some of them. One of them is the international community. London Business School has roughly 90% international students. This means it's a very, very, very heterogeneous place with people coming from various backgrounds, of course, from various locations. On a given year, there's usually students from 60 different countries on every given year. And it's very diverse, and it's a fun place to be in. Parties are very good. There's always some kind of national party for someone. So it's a great place to be in, and very culturally diverse, and also professionally with lots of opportunities afterwards. The curriculum is very flexible. There's lots of there's a few streams. We can discuss them later, but generally speaking, you can choose what you want to do. Just a bit about me. I really didn't enjoy finance, and I took, I think, 6 or 7 electives in entrepreneurship. That was interesting for me. So that's something that I enjoy doing. The length of the degree, which we discussed, you can kind of tailor it, do it very quickly in 15 months or slow down in 18 or 21 months. That's very unique. There's a lot of real life connection. You do a lot of projects with real companies. Okay, there's something called London Cap. Again, you're in one of the biggest cities for companies. There's lots of companies that want this. London Cap is a project that you go and do in real life with a real company in London. There's lots of other opportunities like an internship or doing a summer school for entrepreneurs, which is actually working on your project for a couple of months. There's also a global business experience where you go to another city. It can be in Johannesburg in South Africa. It can be in South America. It can be in Europe. And you go and do a project for a company there. Student clubs, we discussed. There's so many student clubs. They can be professional. I think the biggest club in the school is private equity and venture capital. It can be a technology club. It can be real estate club. But there's also cheese and wine club, salsa club, sailing. Lots of events, conferences. This is a full-on degree. You're going to be busy in the school 5 to 7 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day. In my time, I think I saw Bill Gates, Al Gore, the CEO of, Al Gore, and also Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric. And the most interesting of all was actually Sebastian Coe, who presented the 2012 Olympic bid, and he presented the strategy, which was amazing. So lots and lots of conferences, lots of guest speakers, lots of stuff happening all the time. And even when the big things aren't happening, and let's say you're interested in finance, there's a lot of small things happening because there's a lot of alumni who on the way to the city don't mind coming into London Business School in the morning and sharing their experience in a bank or in consulting or in tech. So there's a lot happening in the school even when Bill Gates doesn't come to campus. And there's lots of little competitions, networking opportunities, things like that. Another thing is London Business School is a great school for families. There's a lot of visa issues, but if you do have a visa for the UK, and it's a good place for families. And this picture on the right is a real picture. There's a lovely lawn in the front, and it's opposite Regent's Park. And I've been here for numerous barbecues and kids running around, and it's really a good place for partners. There's a lot of emphasis. I put here entrepreneurship and tech. I think that's kind of a recent emphasis. And they're trying to say, like, we're not only finance, we do many other things as well. I think that's true. In terms of rounds and deadlines and things, pretty standard and pretty correlated to some other business schools. There's a round in September, 1 year before school starts. So if you're applying in September 24, it's for studies in September 25. There's a round 2 in January with very similar chances. Don't rush. If you didn't make it for round 1, no problem to make it for round 2. Apply when you're ready. In London Business School, there's a round 3, which has good chances. There are some US schools which I would tell you stay away from round 3, wait a whole year, but don't apply. You have very, very slim chances. There's definitely chances in round 3. I've I've helped many people apply and get in round 3. But again, there are less chances if you are ready in round 1 or 2, apply in round 1 or 2. Okay, this is what you need to apply to London Business School. And it's quite long. I would say this is a medium to long application. So the prerequisites are an undergraduate degree. Makes sense. This is a master's degree. But I have to admit that London Business School and INSEAD do make exceptions. If you're a very unique candidate, and I've had probably 2 a year in the last 10 years, so probably around 20 unique candidates, who doesn't have an undergraduate degree, but has a very interesting professional experience, good GMAT, some other things, you can also get into London Business School. But again, most 99% of the candidates will have an undergraduate degree. You need a GMAT or GRE score. Are they waivers? Not for the full-time MBA program. If you want an MBA program, you need a GMAT or a GRE score. And if English is not your mother tongue, or you didn't study your undergraduate degree in an English-speaking university, and the degree wasn't fully in English, you will need to take a TOEFL or IELTS exam of an English eligibility exam and get some kind of minimum score. London Business School don't have a minimum score, but my advice is it should be around above 105 in the TOEFL out of 120. So you need to score like 85+% in these tests. If you have those prerequisites, let's talk a bit about the application itself. And the application includes, this year, London Business School actually added one essay. So the application includes 2 essays and 1 optional essay. I usually recommend to use that optional essay if you have anything else to say. A CV, London Business School, I think is one of the only schools who actually says in the application, please send us a 1-page CV. This is a recommendation for all business schools, but it's mandatory for London Business School. You only need 1 reference. London Business School a few years ago changed the 2 references to 1, which is great. You only need 1 reference. Please choose him wisely. More on that later. And there's a very, very long and extensive online application with a lot of questions. Why are you in your current job? Why did you leave your previous job? What's your biggest international experience? So pay attention to the online application. I call it mini essays, but there's like 10 mini essays in this online application. And if you have all this, and if you pay £201, you can apply to London Business School, and that's it. And I'm looking at the questions while I'm doing this presentation, and there's actually a great question from Jennifer. Do you have to have an undergraduate degree? So the answer is no, you don't have to have an undergraduate degree for London Business School. Very good question. Let's continue. But I promised you an interactive session. So I'm going to drink my glass of water, wherever that is, and I'm going to ask you a question. And it's a trick question because it's not what LBS are looking for. They're looking for a lot of things, which we can go through. But do looks matter? Are looks important? And the answer is yes. Not just the content of your application will be important, but also the looks of your application. Now, there aren't many looks in this application because you're filling out forms and putting text. Okay, so there isn't a lot of formatting to be done. The only place in London Business School's case for formatting would be your CV. So here is a little CV that I wrote. I didn't write my professional experience, but I did put here my community experience and the additional information. I'm really happy with this CV. I think it looks great. Now, forget for a second the text I wrote here because it's a complete lie. But maybe you can look at it and give me some tips for the formatting. Maybe you can spot some formatting mistakes while I drink my glass of water. So have a look. And I'm counting on you guys to help me, because you're MBA experts, with some formatting mistakes. Oh, my bottle of water flew away. You look at this. I'm going over here. And you please write me in the comments if you can find any formatting mistakes. Anyone. I'm going to give a golden prize to whoever finds a formatting mistake. And Prit is the first. Okay, I'm not going to read it yet. Going to let the other people who are not looking at the chat. But you found a quite good one, actually. And it's maybe you can actually mention where it is because it's in several places what you found. I'm going to give you another minute. I'm going to sing you a nice song. La, 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 la. Can you find any formatting mistakes? Aha. So wisdom. I'll go with your alias, but you actually found something that not everybody finds. And okay, Akash, nice. Same one. Okay. And okay, maintenance, you actually asked a very good question, which I'm going to refer to in at the end of the INSEAD slide, so in about 10 minutes. Okay, so great question about a referral. Who's the best referral to choose? I'll answer that. Okay, so I'm going to give you another 10 seconds. Tammy, you're starting to find some good stuff. Okay, 10. Can you find more? 9, 8. Oh my God, Akash, I'm not sure about that one. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so I was very proud of this CV. I don't know what you want from me, guys. I think you're very petty, but actually, there's probably a formatting mistake here in every line. First of all, my name is Shimri Winters, okay? So we said, don't look at the content, but why am I writing my first name in small letters, my family name in capital letters? Something's a bit strange here, right? Like, stay consistent, do whatever you want. By the way, there's no right and wrong on how to write these things, but stay consistent, okay? This is a strange one, okay? So like at the top, I put my phone number, and then I put a line, and then I put my email, and then I put a backslash, and then I put the address. I could have also put a comma and something else. Like, stay consistent. Doesn't matter what you do. Both of them look good, I think, right? But let's stay consistent. The headers, again, this silly thing. I use different font styles. I think the bottom one is in bold. Bit strange. The top one's in capital letters. I'm not even sure this is the same size. Yeah, something doesn't look good here. Can you see, I'm going to take this off. Can you see this one, the 2018? I'm going to take the line off. And can you see China is a bit more aligned to the right than 2018 to current? That's a mistake. You know, if you want dates aligned to the right, put them properly. Align it all the way to the right. You can already see that 2017 and 18 is not aligned to the right as well. This is a very difficult one. Again, I did tell you not to look inside the content. But can you see that I've used and I see this so many times on CVs, that people are just not consistent. Can you see I'm using a different dollar sign? Here I'm using $20M, and here I'm saying 15 million USD. You know, just stay consistent. There's no right or wrong. Just be consistent. Again, silly alignment issues. So ARINGO Youth here should be more to the left under the business clinic. Maybe it's not so visible. The 2017-18 alignment is terrible. Okay, I mean, this again, you need a magnifying glass. But there's one full stop at the end of this line, but there isn't a full stop at the end of the other lines. You know, why did I do that? And, you know, these alignments at the bottom are terrible. And what else? Another, you know, again, text thing. But why am I saying 34 countries, but for 3 years I'm using a digit? So again, the bottom line here, there isn't right or wrong, but you need to stay consistent. And this CV just shows it's sloppy. Okay, it just looks sloppy. And forget the text. And when I used to interview for London Business School and get a CV like this, I used to say to the person, this looks a bit sloppy. Okay, so I know it sounds silly. I can't comment much on the text, but looks matter. And look what a beautiful CV you helped me create. So thanks for that. Let's talk a bit about INSEAD. And I told you, as I'm a London Business School very proud graduate, these are the fellows I thought you might meet at INSEAD, but that was just a little joke. Let's continue. Definitely one of the best business schools in the world. Okay, there's no doubt about it. The Financial Times, I think INSEAD was ranked 1 in the world in 4 out of the last 6 years or something like that. Right now it's ranked 2. Wow, who cares? QS ranking 11 in the world. Again, who cares? It's one of the best schools in the world. Definitely seen as the best school in Europe, together with London Business School. Best school in Asia, because it has a campus in Singapore as well. So, you know, the fact sheet, pretty stuff that you can find, but always good to know. There's 2 intakes at INSEAD, so you can start your MBA in January or start it in September. There's 2 campuses, one in Singapore and one in France, in Fontainebleau. There's also a campus in UAE for executive education. LBS also has a campus like that, but mainly for executive MBAs. There's so many electives there. I can't remember how many, but there's many tens. The degree costs around 100,000 euros, so very expensive. The class size is a bit bigger. It's 1,000 people every time, 1,000 students. Great salaries, again, not trying to compare them. I think they were a bit higher than LBS. It really depends which geography you go and work in. Nationalities, super diverse. And you will be studying with 50 or 60 nationalities in each given year. The GMAT score, again, the old GMAT, I think, was just above 710. So it's roughly 645 in GMAT Focus Edition, something like that. Good percentage of women, not like LBS, but okay, around 5 to 6 years of average work experience. If we look at the INSEAD statistics for employment, which I told you I feel is very important for this presentation, there are a big chunk, large percentage of alumni go to consulting. And for a lot of years, INSEAD was kind of considered the consulting school. And if you wanted consulting, you were targeting INSEAD. I think the more you speak today to INSEAD, they will probably say, oh no, we're famous for technology and entrepreneurship and general management. And they're true. All this is true because it's a big school. And out of the 1,000 students a year, okay, even if half go to consulting, there's still another 500 that go to various other places. And INSEAD is good at everything. It's good in marketing. It's good in strategy and consulting. It's good in general management. It's even good in finance, although keep in mind that INSEAD is not based, especially the French campus, in a big financial area. It's an hour from Paris. If I look at the top recruiters, very similar to what I would see at London Business School, very similar to what I would see at the top US schools as well. So there's the key recruiters in the strategy consulting industry, like Bain, BCG, and McKinsey. There's the top tech companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, and there's a lot of big companies, Samsung, that come, or MasterCard, if I ignore for a second MasterCard as a finance company, that, like we said, come and employ MBAs for management programs. So again, like restaurant brands, that's a good example. There's a lot of good recruiters. And if I look at the LinkedIn statistics with plus 100,000 alumni plus, that say they studied or worked at INSEAD, you will still see that a big number of them are based in France. But if we take the first here and the fourth, I don't know why France and Paris are separate. Yeah, so we're talking about 17,000 out of 100. Yes, so 17% or something like that. 15% are in France. But if you look, the UK is probably the second biggest one with, I don't know, again, UK plus London is 12 or 13 or 14,000 alumni, which maybe is 12 or 13 or 14%. But you can see spread out very nicely and spread out according to the firms, same firms we would expect, consulting, tech, finance, and all the rest. So what are the unique differentiators? And obviously, is INSEAD right for you? So the big unique differentiator versus nearly every other top MBA in the world is the length of the program. INSEAD is 10 months long. Very, very short. It's quite intensive. You need to kind of come focused. I won't say there's a lot of pressure, but there's very short time to meet everybody and to try and decide on your career goals and then to go and interview for recruiters. And it all happens very quickly. There's a very good return on investment because the degree is short. You start working in a post-MBA lucrative job very quickly. Definitely global brand. I speak to people every day from Canada, US, South America, Asia, Middle East, Europe. INSEAD is a top school, which is known by all. The two campuses is great. And a lot of the students, I think it's actually most of the students, study some of the time in another campus. So they go to both campuses, which is a great experience. Lots of students' clubs. Not as many as LBS. Maybe you have a bit less time at INSEAD, but still over 40 student clubs. And very strong alumni network. That's something very important. I go to a lot of cities around the world and meet INSEAD alumni. And a lot of them tell me, oh yeah, we had our alumni monthly drinks meeting, and that can be in Hong Kong, that can be in Germany, in Hamburg, that can be in Dubai. So there's a very strong global alumni network, and they stay tight together. Because it's so international, with 90% plus international student rate, it's super, super, super multicultural, diverse environment, unlike US schools, for example. Very good for partners. They do understand that, I've never checked the statistics, a quarter of students, something like that, will come with a partner. And although the French campus is kind of in the middle of nowhere in a small town, there's lots of activities for partners. And one of my best friends is a partner of an INSEAD MBA grad. And she did so much in that year when she was in France. And she actually has a stronger network with all the other partners, and actually had a business venture with 2 other partners coming out from INSEAD. So it's very good for partners. And they use case studies, etc. It's also a small school, although maybe double in size than the business school. But it's also a small school versus those big US schools. Okay, so is INSEAD right for you? So we said it's a very good school, but keep in mind the program length. I think that's very important. It doesn't work for everyone. If you want to take your time, if you want an internship, if you want to think about things, if you want a 2-year program, go for a 2-year program. Don't go for a very intense program just because INSEAD is ranked good. If you start INSEAD in September, the classic program doesn't include an internship. Only if you start INSEAD in January, post MBA, post the 10 months, you will have an internship opportunity. So that's the J term. I don't know if it's less finance oriented, but again, it's hard to say. It's hard to hide the fact that Fontainebleau is a lovely little village or little town, an hour away from a big city. London Business School or Columbia or NYU or Wharton are in big cities and are very finance oriented and very close to the industry. And INSEAD is a bit further away from the industry. They do have a language proficiency requirement. That means you have to take a course in another language. That's not a prerequisite in some of the other schools. Maybe if you want to go to the US and you want to live in the US and you want to work in the US, don't go to European school at all. Go to a less good US school, but for sure that will be in the US. So don't compromise on the location, which is one of the most important things. We're continuing, and we don't have many more slides, and we're going to have a little interactive question soon. And then I'm going to answer questions, so start preparing your questions. And obviously, I'm going to try and compare a bit between the schools. In terms of rounds, so because INSEAD has 2 intakes a year, so they actually have a lot of deadlines, because each intake, you can start your degree in September or your degree in January, have 4 deadlines for applications. So don't worry about it too much. They usually have a deadline. Should you apply in early deadlines? Well, if you want a scholarship, the scholarship process is actually separate at INSEAD, and it's quite lengthy. You need to write a lot of essays for the scholarship, and they're usually given in the first 2 rounds. So there is an advantage for the first 2 rounds. But after speaking to adcoms at INSEAD, they said that the number of applications is much smaller in round 4. Hence, the actual statistics, the acceptance rate in each round is quite similar. Again, this is official news from INSEAD. I still think if you're ready, apply early in round 1 or 2. But if you're not ready, take your time, apply when you're ready. So what does the application process look like at INSEAD? It's quite similar to London Business School, just longer. INSEAD is probably the longest application out there in the whole MBA industry. Probably. Stanford gives it a bit of a fight, but INSEAD beats it in a knockout. You still need an undergraduate degree. And again, INSEAD is one of the few schools that this is not mandatory. If you have a very special profile, you don't have to have an undergraduate degree. You do need a GMAT or a GRE. There's no GMAT waivers for INSEAD full-time MBA program. And if English is not your mother tongue, or you didn't study in an English degree, fully English degree or university, you will need an English proficiency test like the TOEFL or IELTS. I think you need to score 105 out of 120 in the TOEFL as a minimum. That's great. I'm just reminding you the GMAT score was around 710, which is 645. INSEAD website actually says that they prefer to see candidates that score in the top 75% in each of the sections of the GMAT or the GRE. I've seen candidates get accepted with an uneven GMAT or GRE. For example, your quant is very high, but your verbal is a bit lower. But still, that's their they would like to see candidates with a kind of even GMAT or GRE and quite a high one, above, or in the range of, this 645 on average. Why is the application so long? Because they have 7 application essays. They have something called a job essay, but actually it's 4 separate essays plus 3 more. So there's actually 7 essays. So it's a very, very long application. There's also 2 optional essays. In INSEAD's case, usually after the 7 essays, that's enough. But again, if you have something very interesting to say, you can. And INSEAD requires a resume, a CV, like most business schools do, and 2 referees, 2 references that you will need to give, and they will have to fill out a very long application, very long recommendation. So that's INSEAD, and if you do all that, pay 250 euros, you're good to go, and you can be considered for their MBA program. So here's just the application reference, and this is our interactive section. Let's say you had to choose one recommendation, one recommender, okay? Again, we can discuss later what you have to do with 2, and you had to choose one recommender for these MBA programs, either for INSEAD or London Business School. Who do you choose? So start thinking, and you can write in the chat your answers. I'll just give you some these examples, and maybe they'll make you think. So my school teacher, my high school teacher, I know it was a bit long ago because I'm 27 now, and I've studied and worked in university, but she knew me for quite a long time, and she's been teaching in high school for 20 years, so she has a lot of experience, and I was the best 16-year-old boy in the class, okay? Like, that's impressive, and that would be a good recommender. I think she would write a very nice recommendation as well. I also went to university. The professor doesn't know me very well, okay, but I sat in the first row. I brought him an apple sometimes, and, I wrote a thesis. I helped him with something, and, he will write a nice recommendation and, say that I was smart. I didn't tell you, but my family know the Minister of Agriculture or some other made-up but very senior person. And I haven't worked with him, but he knows me. He knows the family. He's known me from for 20 years already, and he can write whatever I want. He'll just write super clever person. I've known him for 20 years, and give him a spot. Okay, and this will be like someone very famous with with the stamp. I can go to my boss. My boss isn't very senior. He's a team leader, and I do X. I'm a lawyer, accountant, programmer, whatever, and he's a team leader. But still, out of the 3 people he manages, I'm the best, and that's what he's going to say. The CEO of the company is a bit more senior. He doesn't know me because he's the boss of the boss of the boss of the boss. But I can get to him because, my boss can go to him or something, and he'll write some kind of recommendation, but he's super senior. And my mom, I know it sounds strange, but she really knows me, okay? And we're very close, okay? And she would never lie, never, never. And she would say that, I'm a really good boy, and I think she would say that. So what do you think, guys? Remember, this is an interactive session. I'm going to answer all your questions in about 2 slides because we're nearly finished. I'm just going to compare between the schools. But who should I choose? Who should I choose as my recommender? We can start. I can see 1 answer already. I'm going to wait for the first 5 answers. Should we choose the university professor? This is a master's degree. Maybe academics are important. My mom has known me all my life. Like, she would never lie, really. My mom's very good. The CEO, super impressive, right? To bring the CEO of the company, that would be amazing. And, the fact that I managed to get to him, I think that's important. The boss knows me really well, okay, really well, but not very senior. The minister, okay? Like, if I can get to a celebrity, okay, why not do that, right? So what do you think, guys? So we got to the 5 answers. Okay, I'll wait for a 6th one. So I won't badmouth the people that I don't agree with. So I won't mention names this time. But if I had to disqualify the worst ones, well, my mom is the worst one. Okay, that's just unacceptable to bring a recommendation from your mom, your dad. Even if you work together, that's a problem. And actually, this was a question from before. What happens if I'm in a family business or an entrepreneur? I only work with my mom and I don't have a boss. So that's an issue, okay? And we need to find a solution for that. Maybe use a client, an investor, a co-partner. But to bring a mom I find it a bit strange. I have to admit I've done that twice or three times where that was just our only option. But again, the mother, it wasn't, or the father, they were working jointly together. But again, this is kind of last option. The school teacher just isn't relevant, okay? I mean, if you went to high school, but since then you've done university and you've worked a few years, this is just too long ago and just not relevant. So now we remain with the four middle ones here. MBA programs are very, very hands-on, professional experience. That's what they're interested in, unlike any other master's degree. So any other master's degree, if you were going for law or psychology or anything else, the professor university recommendation would probably be your first. But in MBA programs, that's less relevant. Again, I've used that before. But if you have strong professional experience, don't use that. Go for the professional recommendation. This leaves the three. And the minister isn't really a professional recommendation. That's just kind of, haha, I know a celebrity. Haha, I know the prime minister. Okay? And that just doesn't help. If the prime minister is not connected to the school in any way and hasn't worked with you and just will say, oh, he's a nice boy, I've known his family, that's just not good. I've seen this with some candidates who weren't successful and then sent me their application. I didn't work with them, so they just sent it me for a review. And then I was kind of looking at it and then say, well, why did you choose this recommender? And say, oh, because he's a celebrity. But that doesn't mean anything if he doesn't know you and can give a good recommendation about you. So that leaves two. And by the way, out of this selection, out of these six people, if I had two recommendations for INSEAD, I would choose the two green ones, the green and the light blue, the boss and the CEO. The CEO is wrong here. You should choose your boss, and you should choose your previous boss, or maybe the boss's boss, or some kind of other project manager that works with you on a matrix basis. But again, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 years of experience, you should find two managers, previous or current. And if not, the boss's boss is okay, but preferably someone who's worked with you on a weekly, if not daily basis, and can say, I've worked with 10 people, Shimri is the best. That's what we want to see in a recommendation. So thank you for everybody who participated in that. That was fun for me. So we're actually in our last 2 or 3 slides. And again, this was just part 1 of this presentation. In the second part, I'm going to dive in to the actual application questions and how to answer the essays. But I did want to just kind of finish with a summary of London Business School versus INSEAD. And there's no good or bad. Obviously, there's just some differences and everybody needs to make their own choice. And a little secret, you won't be the only people who apply to both schools. You also need to get accepted before you make the choice. But it's good to know what you want to do. So definitely both schools are among the best schools in the world. There's no doubt about that. Okay, look at the Financial Times ranking this year, last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Okay, and again, in my eyes, it doesn't really matter if London Business School was ranked 4 and now it's ranked 8 or was ranked 6 and then a year later 12. One of the best schools in the world, same with INSEAD. These are highly selective programs. This means the people that study there are top-notch. Okay, they're great professional skills, great communication skills. There's always interviews, so people have interviewed them. They manage to score well on the GMAT. These are very good people, very diverse student base, diverse alumni base, great schools. There's a lot of flexibility in these schools. So extensive range of electives. There's a lot of flexibility. You can kind of choose your path. And like I told you, I decided to take entrepreneurship courses, not because I'm an entrepreneur, because that was interesting for me. There's so many student clubs. And I was a member of the technology club, but I didn't go to the sailing club, but my friends enjoyed that very much. There was a rugby club, a tennis club, a basketball club, but there's also the private equity club, women's and business club, social entrepreneurship club. So there's many, many interesting clubs. And again, if you're interested in it, there's a club. And if there isn't, you can help build a club like that, chess club or whatever interests you. like we said, great schools, lots of international alumni networks, lots of opportunities post-MBA. Good schools also for partners. Both of them are quite good. And there's a lot of emphasis on helping you find a job at the end of the MBA. Now, that slide I showed you with all the logos from London Business School, those are recruiters that came to campus to recruit. So this is a real, I think London Business School have something like 30 people working in career services, helping you find a job at the end of the MBA. So this is serious power, helping you find a job. By the way, the reason the schools are doing it, it's not because they're so nice, it's because of their brand. And one of the key, or the key criteria in MBA rankings is how many students found a job within 3 months, and how much money are they earning? Have they doubled their salary from pre-MBA? Have they tripled it? And these are very big criterias and have a big chunk in the total rankings. Roughly 40% of the ranking is finding, how many students found a job and how much money they were making. So London Business School, INSEAD, invest a lot of resources in helping you find a job. And like we said, they're flexible curriculums, and the schools are quite small. Still, I changed colors, I'm sorry. There's quite a lot of differences between the schools. The first and second are the big, and maybe the third, are the big differences, okay? INSEAD is short, INSEAD is a bit more intense, INSEAD doesn't offer an internship if you start in September, and you have to be a bit more focused. Another versus London Business School, which is a longer degree where you have a bit more time. The location is obviously the biggest differentiator. This one's in France and Singapore, and this one's in England. But London Business School also offers a lot of exchange opportunities in US and European and Asian schools. Like we said, the intake is different. You can start your MBA in January at INSEAD, and in both cases, you can start in September. And INSEAD class size is a bit larger. I think these 3 or 4 first differentiators are the big differentiators. And again, there's some smaller differentiators. I'm not sure the focus is such a big differentiator. Like I said, both business schools offer a lot. Although INSEAD was famous for strategy and London Business School was famous for finance, I think both schools offer, if you're interested in finance, consulting, strategy, general management, industry, entrepreneurship, tech, I think both schools offer a lot of opportunities. A few other little differentiators. So INSEAD has a bit more of a structure. London Business School is more flexible. Like we said, you can kind of change the degree length. The culture, again, like we said, INSEAD is a bit more intense, but it's very collaborative. It's very fun. You don't feel competition between students, etc. London Business School, same, fun. You don't feel competition. There's a lot of events in both campuses, a lot of parties, and a lot of professional events. London Business School does offer London as well, and there's a lot of activities that are connected to the city, either fun or professional activities. Remember, you're kind of a tube underground away from any company in the world, and a lot of executives come to London Business School, like I said, for a coffee in the morning, or as a guest speaker in the evening, or for a case. And this is something they can do, which is a bit harder for INSEAD, which does get the big famous guest speakers when they do their book tour, but doesn't have this daily interaction with the city. I think those are kind of the big differentiators. Like we said, you primarily work in London or in Europe post-MBA from both schools. So not a huge difference, although from London Business School, there's a higher chance that you'll end up in the UK. I think we saw INSEAD was 13 or 14% according to LinkedIn. London Business School has a very strong startup community, and it's getting stronger and stronger. But INSEAD, especially in Singapore, also has a vibrant startup community. And Singapore is a very nice place if you're interested in tech and startups and strategy. So also very similar opportunities, although kind of different schools. Wow. Okay, so that was me speaking very fast regarding these 2 schools. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. This is my email. If you want some kind of chances assessment, please send me your details. You can please check us out on ARINGO.com. I'm reminding you that this was session number 1, where session number 2, we're going to dive into admissions in both schools, and we're going to go over the essays of each school and the requirements. And that will be our second session, so stay tuned. And I'm here to answer any questions regarding London Business School, INSEAD, and MBA from our live YouTube and Facebook followers. So I'm here. I'm going to kind of look at the comments from the beginning of the session and try and answer anything. And thanks, guys, for joining. And it was fun for me to talk a lot about 2 schools that I'm very passionate about. So I think I answered the first question about a bachelor's degree. And I think we answered that both schools, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree to get in. So that's very interesting for both schools. So, okay, maintenance, I think I discussed that, but this is a great question. What happens, I'm going to take it like further. What happens if I don't have my boss to recommend me? Okay, so it can be either I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't have a boss, or I'm the CEO, I don't have a boss. And second reason is maybe I don't want to tell my current employer that I'm planning to leave. Okay, maybe I work in a bank. The bonus is a big factor. If I tell them, no bonus, or they fire me on the spot. So there's ways to deal with this situation. For example, to bring a previous employer or previous manager or someone who's left the company, or something like that. If you're an entrepreneur, maybe a partner, a client, and you might want to explain this in the optional essay. I didn't supply a recommendation for my current employer because ABC, and I can supply this in the future, something like that. So that's regarding recommendation. I'm going through the comments, and you found very good things on my CV that wasn't formatted good, so thank you for that. So someone asked about the geography. How does it matter when you're applying to business school? So I'm not sure what the question was. I'll take it in 2 directions. I hope I hit one of them. One is your current geography. That means your background. And second is, does it matter where I study if afterwards I want to go and work in London? So regarding the first question, yes, your background matters. Because if you come from an overrepresented background, and there's a lot of other applicants with a similar profile than yours, then it's very easy for these business schools to compare between the 2 of you. Okay? And you have 700 in a GMAT, your competitor has 720. You have 730, they have a 740. And in a comparison match, you'll usually lose. There's usually someone better than you. So we always try and look unique. And again, not everybody has a unique background, but at least try for the application to be unique. But if you do have a unique background, that's an advantage. If I take the question to the other direction, what does it matter where I study? For example, does it matter if I study, let's say that in INSEAD, in Singapore, or in France? Yes, I think it does. Because the employers that will come, they might be global employers, but a lot of them come to recruit for the local offices. So even if McKinsey come and recruit from London Business School, there's a high chance, not 100%, but a high chance that you will find a job at the London McKinsey office. But if your dream was to study, if your dream was to live in the US, my suggestion is go and find an MBA in the US. If your dream is to live in Canada, I'm not saying it's impossible to go to INSEAD and come back to Canada and go and work in Canada, but it's definitely harder. Why not study in an MBA that's in Canada or any other country that's connected to the local employers and find a job that way? So I hope I answered the geography a bit. We're going to answer 1 or 2 other questions. Not many. A very good from Hello WW, so hi. Very good question regarding the recommender. So the question is, if your recommender manages 1 person, which is me, okay? So it doesn't manage 3 people, it manages me. Should I go to this recommender or not? And it's a very tough question because I need to know you and I need to know your profile and I need to know the other options. But one option would be your manager's manager. If he has a team of 10, out of which 3 are team leaders, but if you only have 1 manager, if your manager only manages you, you probably know the manager's manager. So that would be one option. Option number 2 is going to previous employers. And option number 2 is, yes, using this manager I don't know what his experience is, but maybe he managed people in the past. Maybe he recruited you out of a pool of 10 people. Maybe he works with other, whatever you do, analysts. He doesn't manage them, but he can say, I have 7 years of banking experience. I have managed in the past 10 analysts, and I've worked with 100. Shimri is the best. Okay, so he doesn't manage today more than one, but still his recommendation could be very positive. But again, if it's not positive, choose a different recommender. Very good question from Prit, and I don't even know how to answer it because I need to know your profile. So if you want to send me your CV, GMAT score, and other info, I can try and help. But should you choose, if you have 2 years of experience, which degree should you choose? So the answer is actually quite simple. At the beginning of the slide, I showed you that these schools have a degree called Master in Management and Master in Analytics Management. And if you have 0 to 2 years of experience, so like 1 year of experience, you should go for these degrees or wait for your MBA. Don't apply too early to the MBA. They say minimum of 2 years, but for most cases, it's a minimum of 3 years of professional work experience. If you're interested in finance, yes, you could go for a Master in Finance degree. It's a bit of a different degree, and it concentrates more on finance. And the opportunities post that degree are a bit more limited. They usually are in finance. But if that's what you want to do, if you want to go and work in a hedge fund, investment banking, or be a broker or anything like that, a Master in Finance would get you there versus an MBA, which might also get you there, but might get you somewhere else. So regarding what are your better chances to get admitted, again, I don't know you, so I need to know your profile a bit more. I can say that 2 years is a bit on the low side for an MBA. Probably without knowing you, if they're not very, very, very interesting 2 years, you might need 3 or 4 years. If you have front-end finance experience, you can apply to Master in Finance, so whatever you want. Okay, so actually, there's a great question of a 37-year-old with 10 years of continuous work experience. So first of all, talk to me post this this presentation, and maybe check out ARINGO website. We have a presentation for MBA over 30. And first of all, if you have more than 12 years of full-time experience, you should not apply to a regular MBA program. Then this leaves you 2 options. One option is the executive MBA, but remember that executive MBA are part-time MBA programs. This means you don't get a visa to live in the country. So if you live today in China and the executive MBA is in London, it's going to be impossible for you to travel every 2 weeks to London. So just keep in mind that regarding the executive MBA, but there's very interesting executive MBA options, both at INSEAD, which is, I think it's once every 5 weeks or something like that, or 6 weeks, and it's like 1 block week. London Business School have a every 2 week degree option, and those have a joint degree with Columbia Business School, which is once a month, either at Columbia or at London Business School. So there's executive MBA options. Another option is London Business School offers something they call the Sloan program. The Sloan program is an MBA, a 1-year MBA for candidates with more than X amount of years, and there's no maximum. And the average age, I think, is like 39 or 40. The average years of experience is like 15. So this is for candidates with more experience than the average regular MBA candidates. And just shoot me a line with your CV or something, and I'll help you. There's some other programs like this in the US, which are special for candidates with more experience than 12 years of experience. But if you have more than 12 years of experience, do not apply to INSEAD or LBS full-time MBA. You're not going to get in. I'm sorry to say that kind of very strictly. It's not a matter of age. It's a matter of years of experience. Okay. Does very good question, actually, that I've never received, so thank you. Harshit asked, does LBS or INSEAD check pre-undergraduate marks? That means I've seen a lot of very experienced candidates, mainly from India, Pakistan, some other countries, where even if you have 10 years of experience, you still leave your marks from your high school. This is something that is not needed for MBA programs. This is, we look at you mainly at your professional experience. And even your undergraduate marks are not the most important thing for an MBA. So if you have a mediocre GPA from your undergraduate degree, don't worry about that too much. I think I had quite a mediocre. I think I had a 3.0. With a high GMAT or with an interesting profile and interesting application, you can overcome that. So definitely they don't check before undergraduate, but also the undergraduate GPA is not the most important thing. Again, 10 or 20 more points on the GMAT are more important than another point in your GPA. Okay, we're getting kind of towards the end. I'm going to answer the last question. And then, again, I'm reminding you, check out in a couple of weeks, we're going to have another session which will go into the actual applications with me. The last question so would be about the age, okay? And it's a very good question. So let's say I'm 30 or 31 or 32. Is this a problem? And like I answered the 37-year-old with 12 years of experience, I'm going to answer you. London Business School and INSEAD don't care if you're 27 or 28 or 32. You know what? Ignore the age altogether. But is your profile kind of with what we're looking for? Do you have 4 to 10 on average years of experience? It can be 3, it can be 11. But do you have that kind of professional experience? Is the professional experience interesting? Will the MBA, do you have MBA aspirations? Did you write a good application? Do we, London Business School and INSEAD, think you will add to the class? If the answer is yes, 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 yes to all those, if you're 31, 33, or 26, I don't care, okay? And I'll leave you with last words of wisdom. When I used to interview at London Business School, I used to look for 3 things. We'll discuss this in our next presentation quite a lot. Thing number 1, okay, are you academic? An academic can be, okay, your undergraduate degree, but not necessarily your score and your grades. What did you study? What did you learn? Why did you choose this degree? And what did you learn there? So if you have an interesting degree and you have a good reason why you studied that's good. Plus the GMAT, okay? You do need a certain GMAT. You need to be close to the school's average. You can't have a GMAT 500 points below the average. You can, but then you would have to have super interesting profile. And if your GMAT is around the average, so I can see you're academic enough. That was number 1. Number 2 that I was looking for when I used to interview for London Business School was, your professional experience. This is the most important thing for an MBA. Is your professional experience interesting? And it doesn't have to be a certain industry. It can be a waiter that was promoted to a shift manager and now is a restaurant manager, and he wants an MBA because he wants to be a restaurant owner. That's interesting, okay? And I can see some progress in the career, and I can see ambitions, and I think the MBA can help them. So your professional experience plus kind of the why MBA, very, very important. And the third thing is something very tough. It's everything else. Would I want you in the class with me? And are you someone interesting? So if you're only working all your life, you work very, very hard and you have great scores but you're like the most boring person in the world, you would probably not pass my interview. So maybe you would pass the first stage of applying and maybe you would get to the stage of the interview. So you have to also be someone a bit interesting. Now, not everybody built an orphanage in somewhere. And not everybody backpacked Africa and Asia and Europe and did a train ride across 50 countries. So there's lots of ways to be interesting. Maybe you have interesting hobbies. Maybe you're an interesting person. Maybe you ran a marathon. Maybe you volunteer in your church. So as long as you have something, which I think I can have a nice discussion with you in the pub after London Business School. We go a lot to the pub. That would be like the third thing. And this is what we would look in the application also, that you're academic, professional experience, and have kind of a third thing. So thank you very much for whoever joined this session live, whoever's watching it in a delay, that's good as well. Check out our next session regarding the actual application process. Lots of luck if you're applying to London Business School and INSEAD and other schools as well. My email is here. Check out our website, ARINGO.com. Thank you, guys. Thank you, GMAT, for hosting us, GMAT Club for hosting us today. And see you in our next sessions. Bye for now.